Hello, guys. Good morning. Hope you're doing well today. I'm so glad that you're joining me, whether you're joining me live or watching later. This is the last of my Facebook Lives in my series of simple spiritual practices for busy moms. And so today, my hope is to not only introduce you to one other practice that will help you, but to also just kind of tie it all together, because these practices are really powerful on their own. But when you put them together, they can really build on each other and work together to be even more effective. You may have seen on social media, I also have a very super fun announcement at the very end of the live. So make sure you stay with me until the end to hear about it. I've been working on a new free resource for moms, and it's launching today. It's ready to go for you right now. I'm so excited to share it with you. So I hope you'll stick around and hear about that. So far, we've looked at practices that can be done when you have alone time. Even though they only take a few minutes, they're things that you usually do on your own when you have some quiet. So we've talked about the practice of silence, of just taking some time to create maybe 5 minutes of space and stillness to just rest in God's presence. And then we learned about the practice of download, of that idea of just getting that mental clutter out of your head, kind of down on a scrap piece of paper to get rid of the mental clutter and just create space for God. But how do we connect with God during the rest of our day? So we might have some really good time in silence, or we might read our Bibles and pray and feel really connected to God. But then as we get back into our day and go about our routine, if we're taking care of the kids or at work or whatever it is that we're doing, that connection that we felt with God in the quiet sometimes feels like it starts to slip away from us. And maybe we just kind of assume that that's how it is, that until we have time to get still and quiet again, that we're just going to lose that connection with God. So I want to teach you a simple practice today that can help you remain connected to God throughout your busy day, long after that silence is filled. And it's something that you can do even when your kids are around or when you're going about the rest of your day. So the practice I want to talk about today is called a breath prayer. Now, before you think it's some like weird thing that's like super out there, a breath prayer is just how it sounds. A breath prayer is a prayer you can say in a breath. It's short, it's simple. The purpose of it is to just capture in a phrase or a sentence what you want to pray to God right now. It should be short and easy to remember. And what it does is it helps us focus in on what it is we actually need from God, what our hearts are desiring from Him. Just like the download exercise kind of helps you clear through all the noise to create space for God, this can help you clear away kind of everything else that's competing for your attention, all the words, and just boil it down to one simple thing. So think of it this way. Think about what is the one thing that you want to ask of God right now? What do you need from Him? Another way to think about it is, what is the one thing that you need to remember about God right now? So as you're doing this, maybe just jot down a few ideas to start, and then circle the one that resonates for you that day. Turn it into a prayer, make it a sentence or a phrase that you can remember easily, and make that your go-to prayer for the rest of your day. The great thing about this prayer is that it's so short that you can say it right in the middle of any part of your day. When your kid is throwing a tantrum, you can say this prayer. When you're waiting in line at the store, or when you're feeling anxious at work, anytime you're in that moment, you can just kind of refocus your attention on Jesus by saying that short prayer that reminds you that He is with you and that He wants to help you. So I want to give you just a few examples of this, and these examples are in that free guide that I have for you on my website. These are just ideas, but feel free to use them. If you're stuck and can't think of one, these are really simple, easy ones to use. One is, God, give me patience. This is a great one to use with your kids. God, give me patience. Another one is, Jesus, fix my eyes on you. Another one is, Holy Spirit, give me strength. Again, these are short. They're just a way to remind you of God's presence throughout your day and to turn your thoughts to Him instead of staying stuck in that cycle of anxiety or defeat. A time that this is really helpful for me is when I find myself getting worn down by my kids, like they're just starting to wear down my patience. It's like we'll be having a really good day together, but then something happens. It's like there's a tantrum, or there's a kid that's just constantly whining or not listening. And it just becomes this downward spiral, and it's just going to keep plummeting if I don't do something to turn it back around. And it's not just for my kids, but it's for me also, because I start feeling impatient and defeated, and I feel like, why am I going to bother trying to hold it together because this day is just falling apart and there's no hope? So this breath prayer is one tool that can help me turn my focus back to God in that moment. I mentioned on Monday that another tool for that is silence, because there are moments like that where what I need to do is just get away. I need to go close myself in a room and just be still and quiet for a few moments, and that can recenter my attention on God. But that's not always possible. I can't always get away. But the great thing about a breath prayer is it's so short and quick that you can pray it just to yourself in your mind or out loud if you want, but you can just pray it to yourself wherever you are and no matter what's going on in that moment. So as you try to come up with that phrase or sentence, don't overthink it. Don't stress about it. You're not coming up with a breath prayer for the rest of your life. It's probably just going to be what you need for that day or maybe that week or just even a season. Keep it short and simple. Make it something you can remember. I would even suggest writing it down somewhere. Keep it somewhere that you'll see it the rest of the day. You could put it on a Post-it note and put it on your computer or your fridge or maybe on your rear view mirror in your car. Another thing that can be helpful is set a reminder on your phone that has that prayer come up at some point in your day. Like if you know that before dinner, kind of what we call the witching hour, that your kids are going to be really driving you crazy and wearing on your nerves, set a reminder on your phone that it pops up and reminds you to pray your breath prayer. Just make the reminder the exact words of your prayer. So again, ask God to show you what you need from him and then pray that back in a sentence, and that's the breath prayer. So that's the challenge for today. Take a few minutes to reflect and identify what that might be, turn it into a sentence, write it down, and that's your breath prayer for the day. Pray it often, let it remind you that God is with you. So to kind of wrap up this Facebook series, I want to just talk about how these practices can really work well when you do them together. I want to give you just a very simple 3-step process that you can come back to when you need to connect with God in a fresh way, whether you do it every so often or every day, whatever works for you, because I really think that if you do these together in a specific order, they're going to be even more powerful for you. So here's the 3-step process in order. And remember, this is all in your PDF guide. I actually have 2 guides today. One of them walks you through the breath prayer and gives those examples. And the other guide is the summary and this 3-step process for you. Step number 1 is to download, to clear the mental clutter. Second is to sit in silence and to rest in God's presence. And finally, your breath prayer is what you're going to carry with you into the rest of the day. This whole process can take 10 minutes or even more or less time depending on what you have available. So again, number 1 is download. Begin by getting all of the mental clutter out of your head and down onto paper. Just write whatever comes to mind. It can be messy and scattered. Remember, you're going to throw it away. So after you download your thoughts for a few minutes, is silence. So set that paper aside. That's a way of just kind of giving it to Jesus as you enter a time of quiet. You can set a timer for 5 minutes if you want, but just come into God's presence with no agenda, no demands. Just simply create space for God to speak if he wants or just to rest in his presence. The first you notice on your download time, and maybe what you heard in your time of silence, identify what your deepest need is from God or something you need to remember about God that day. Write it in a phrase or sentence as your breath prayer. Pray it throughout your day. So start with download, then practice silence, and then carry that breath prayer with you. I want to give you a quick note on that too, because something I've experienced before. Don't spend that entire time of silence trying to come up with your breath prayer, because the point of the silence isn't to figure out what that's going to be, but it's just to be still and to rest. And a breath prayer might come to you in that, and it might not. Don't try to force it. Don't stress about it. And you can always use one you used yesterday, or you can use an example from that guide if you want. If you build these practices into your day, I really think you could see a huge impact in your relationship with God, and it doesn't have to take a whole lot of time. You can do this at any point in your day. It's great to start your day that way, to kind of turn your focus to God before the day comes at you. It can also be a great reset in the middle of your day, maybe during the kids' nap time or when they're at school. This can also be a great way to close out your day, just to give whatever happened over to God and prepare your heart for the next day. Do this however works best for you. I also want to make sure you know that this is not a magic fix. I really don't want to present this like it's a guaranteed formula, like here's a quick and easy way to connect with God in only 3 steps, because formulas don't work with God. That's not how he works. We cannot make him speak or move. We are simply creating space, and we're building a practice into our lives that will train our hearts and minds to listen and to rest in his presence. Again, this is a great place to start, and we're not replacing reading our Bibles or anything like that. This is just one tool that hopefully can help you. This is about doing small things consistently, trusting that something is better than nothing, and seeing how over time it can make a really big difference. So I really hope this Facebook Live series has been helpful for you guys. I've loved sharing these ideas with you, and I'm so glad you joined me for this. And I just want to take a couple minutes real quick before we close. If you've enjoyed this series, there's something else releasing this week that I think you'll find helpful, and I'm really excited to share it with you and tell you about it. So here's the announcement that I told you was coming in this video, and I just want to take a couple minutes to tell you about it. I'm so excited to tell you that I'm going to be hosting a brand new podcast with New Hope Church, and it's called New Hope Mom Life. And this podcast is going to have new episodes every week. And right now, the preview episode is up. It's live. It's ready to go. And this is just a short 5-minute episode. It's going to tell you what the podcast is all about and what you can expect. So like I said, this is part of the New Hope Podcast Network. Our church actually has several podcasts available that you can listen to. And while this was created for moms of our church, for New Hope moms, really it's for anyone. Any mom is invited to listen. You can listen no matter what your season is as a mom. This is for anybody. Anyone can listen. You can subscribe through your podcast app, and I'll show you in just a minute how to find that. But I just wanted to tell you what the goal of this podcast is. Because the goal of the podcast is to give you some tools and inspiration that are going to help you find God right in the middle of the everyday mess and chaos of motherhood. And this is a podcast for moms, but it's not about parenting. It's actually focused on you as a mom. And we're going to actually talk about some of the same things we've talked about this week, how to connect with God in the chaos of motherhood. Because I've really, what I'm learning is that being a mom does not have to be a distraction from our walk with God, but it can actually be the very thing that God will use to grow us the most. And that's what I'm excited to talk to you about on this podcast. Some of the episodes are actually going to also feature conversations with other New Hope moms, because I want us to learn from each other. And I want you to hear from other moms in different stages and seasons. And we're going to hear their perspective about what God is teaching them through their motherhood. So like I said, the preview episode is live now, ready for you to listen. And the first episode will be up next week, should be up around Tuesday. If you subscribe, you'll see that come in. So if you want to check it out, I'm going to show you the best way. I'm actually going to show you on my phone. The very best way to find it is to log on to newhopechurch.cc/listen. And I'll put that in the comments later. I would do this on your phone if that's the place that you listen to podcasts. I'm going to show you here, see if I can get it where you can see it. This is what it looks like. When you go to newhopechurch.cc/listen, scroll down, there's our logo, New Hope Mom Life. And if you click, see if I can do this, on subscribe on Apple Podcasts, there we go. It's actually going to open it right in your podcast app. There's the podcast. Click that purple subscribe button. Where is it? There it is. Okay, and you're subscribed. So you'll have access to the very first episode. New episodes will show up automatically for you. And just check out that preview episode. It's going to tell you all about it. Because it's a new podcast, if you go in and try to search for it in the podcast app, it may or may not come up. So that's why the best thing to do is to go to that website, newhopechurch.cc/listen, and click on the link from there. You can also listen through Spotify. You can listen on your computer. There's a website for it. Later, it should be available on Google and in other places. But for now, go to that website. You're going to find all the links. And the more that people listen and subscribe, and the more ratings and reviews we get, the more visible it's going to be for people looking for it. So I would love if you go ahead and subscribe. Once you listen, rate and review it. That's going to help us get it out to more people. Again, listen to the preview episode to learn more what it's going to be about, and I hope it's helpful for you. I'm so excited to be doing this. I love that I'm doing this with my church. I'm just so excited to serve just the moms that we have in our community, and to learn from other moms. Even if you go to church, I hope for you to. So again, thank you so much for joining me today, in this week. If you missed any of the videos this week, they're all still available. Click the link in the description to get your free guides. Check out the podcast. I hope this helps you just to connect with God. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And I hope that you'll check out the other videos, get your free guides, and I will see you guys soon.